Hello, good day. The third topic is on how to package the results and discussion section as a component of your research manuscript. And to begin with, I would like to emphasize on the learning outcomes of this session. First, for you to develop the ability to interpret research results and discuss their implications. Second, to critically analyze and interpret your research findings. And third is to package the results and discussion section of a research paper using the strategies and techniques I will be walking you through the process. Looking back at the structure of the IMRAD format, which stands for the introduction, methods, materials, results, and discussion structure, the methodology and results are often considered the most important parts of a manuscript, as the information in these sections are what readers use to evaluate the quality, validity, and replicability of the study. That is according to Fox and Jennings in 2014. The results section objectively explains the key results in an orderly and logical sequence without interpretation, using both the text and illustrative materials, whether tables and figures. And the results section always begins with the key results in the form of text, followed by reference to figures and tables. On the other way around, the discussion section presents the findings in a research context and explains the meanings of findings and its main purpose. The section provides answers to the questions posed in the introduction section and follows results section where new information related to findings on research questions or questions presented. The sources of research results will come from different designs like the experiment, the interview, the focus group discussion, using survey, and even observation. And you combine all of this, it can be a use of documentary analysis and the use of the mixed methods when you combine the one or two or more research designs in the study. And in the structure of a Germanic thesis, the results and discussion section is actually the chapter 4 of your research manuscript or your thesis. That is the chapter 4. And what are the things that can be seen in the results and discussion section? So as to results section, you can present the content. And the results section should include the findings of your study and only your research findings, just the findings. While the discussion section is where you delve into the meaning and importance and relevance of your research results. Suppose that you have 4 statements of the problems in your study. So the problem statement number 1 will have its result number 1, and your findings related to problem statement number 1 that is being presented as the result, and your interpretation of this finding would be your discussion. Same as also with problem statement number 2 and result, problem statement 3 and result, and problem statement 4 and the result. In an article from John Ditchener and Helen Basbrookman on the perceptions and difficulties of postgraduate second language or L2 thesis students writing the discussion section, they noted that the functions of discussion of results and sections, or the DRS, are the following. First, to summarize and discuss the result. Second, to make link between the results and the literature. Third, to discuss the implications of the result. And fourth is to cross-check the result. Now, The results and discussion are two important components of your chapter 4. It is the results that you just give and present the results, but you do not interpret them. And it is in the discussion section wherein you provide meaning and implication of the results, as you will also relate the information from the result back to the literature and provide introductory thesis statement. So what are included in the results? So the results section should include the findings of your study and just only the research findings. And the findings include: 1, data presented in tables, data presented in charts, data presented in graphs, and other figures, and may be placed among research texts or on a separate page. For qualitative research, it could be the contextual analysis of the data, explaining its meaning and on sentence form. The third one is the report on data collection. It can also include the recruitment and the participants. Number 4, the data that corresponds to the central research questions. And number 5, it may include the secondary findings, secondary outcomes, the subgroup analysis, and more. I am showing to you an example of a result presented in tabular form. Table 2, the metal concentration of water sediments in liver, gills, and muscles of C. macrocephalus from Butuanon River. As you can see, the result presented in tabular form presented some footnotes and notes below showing the mean and standard deviation. And some indicators like A, referring to the Philippines PENR, B, Cloak's guidelines value for the soil, and of course, MDL or the method detection limit. This is just an example of a result presented in tabular form. And another result presented in figure are the distribution of farmer typologies in the study area. So it was presented in a pie chart and a bar graph or a line graph. It depends upon the nature of the study. And as you can see, they are just presented plain as they are. But you need to provide one paragraph statement referring to figure 9, referring to the table, about the figure or about the table. So one paragraph statement for that. On the other way around, there are communicative moves in discussion section. And this is what I called from Machu Picchu on the communicative moves in the discussion section of a research article. There are 9 moves. The first one is the information move, where the author or the researcher or the writer provides background about the theory, the research aims, and methodology. The second is statement of result. That's number 2. It could either a numerical value or reference to a graph or table. The third one is the finding, same as the statement of result, but without a reference to graph or table. And number 4, it can be the expected outcome or unexpected outcome, where a comment on whether the result is expected or not. Number 5, reference to previous results. Number 6, the explanation, reasons for unexpected results. And number 7, the claim, referring to the generalization arising from the results contribution to the research. And number 8, the limitation. And number 9, your recommendation, which could be the suggestion for future research. Now, in simplistic term, the 3-part framework of the move cycle series can be combined to come up with a very good discussion section. Suppose you are writing the introduction part of the discussion section. We have the formula here. Add moves 1. Add moves 1, that information move, o plus 5, referring to the reference to previous research. Or it could be 2, statement of the results or the finding. So that is how you present the introduction of the results and discussion section. The second level is the evaluation, wherein the key move cycles here are 2, statement of the results or the finding, or 3, add it with the reference to previous research. It can be 7 plus 5, or claim and the reference to previous research, or vice versa, 5 to 7. So that is the evaluation cycle. And the third one is the conclusion moves, wherein you need to combine moves 3, the findings of the study, plus 7, the claim of the study, or 9, including the recommendation. So this could be a good process, listening students on the way, how you write down your discussion for a specific result. So what is included actually in the discussion? Take note that the discussion section is you delve into the meaning, importance, and relevance of your results. It should focus on explaining and evaluating what you found, showing how it relates to your literature review, and research questions, making an argument in support of your overall conclusion. So your interpretation would mean, what do the results mean? Second, the implication. Why do the results matter? Third, limitations. What can the results tell us? And recommendations. What practical actions or scientific studies should follow? Okay? So, meaning, what do the results mean would mean a fact-finding and meaning-making process from the trends of data based on the objectives of the study. The implication can be the inferences, the insights, the implications of the findings into practice, into policies or theories, the gaps, literature gaps, or the practical gaps. The limitations can be the scope of the inquiry. You can also talk about the research area, the weaknesses and strengths. And the practical implications can be in the form of writing how does that result would mean to theory? How would it expand the established laws and theories or widely accepted ideas and concepts? The practical recommendations and future research directions. In a given example, we have the sample result here and a sample discussion. Have you noticed that in the sample result, it just shows or it just refers to table 8? So in table 8, the results indicate that cognitive engagement mediated association between self-awareness and study habits. Therefore, hypothesis 4 is accepted. Cognitive engagement mediated the relationship between self-motivation and study habits and approves hypothesis 4. Study habits engagement mediated the connection of regulation of emotion and study habits and approves hypothesis 4. Lastly, cognitive engagement mediated the connection between social skills and study habits. Thus, hypothesis 4.4 is accepted. The results indicate that all hypotheses listed in table 8 are approved. As shown in the trends in data, with table 8, the direct relationship, and you can see the abbreviations below. SA stands for self-awareness, SM for self-motivation, RE for regulation of emotion, CE if for cognitive engagement, SH for study habits, and mean standard deviation. Now, this is the sample discussion of that result. The study explored the connection between the emotional intelligence and study habits through cognitive engagement among students in blended learning environments during COVID-19. Similar studies have been conducted on the same issue in advanced countries, author year, and author year, and only limited studies have been performed in emerging countries such as China, author year. Furthermore, the studies have been conducted in emerging countries' level results only in pre-COVID-19 situations. As such, the authors claim that the present study is first to examine the influence of emotional intelligence on the study habits of students studying in blended learning environments in Chinese universities. Specifically, as it focuses on cognitive engagement as mediator variable. The study measured the association between emotional intelligence and study habits, and the results indicate that self-awareness and self-management positively and significantly influence study habits, which approves hypothesis. Prior studies also confirm, referring to previous literature, that self-awareness and self-motivation have a positive connection with study habits that according to author year and other author year. And this is actually my citation. The relationship between emotional intelligence and study habits has been discussed in previous studies, and the results confirm that emotional intelligence promotes a positive relationship with study habits. However, in the research, the associations of emotional intelligence dimensions and regulations of emotion and social skills were found to be positive and significant with regard to study habits. A plausible reason for these results could be the universities did not fully prepare their students to develop emotional intelligence in the area of regulation of emotion and social skills. There could be other reasons for these results, such the students' weak social skills and poor regulation of emotion owing to fewer face-to-face interaction in blended learning environments during COVID-19 pandemic. This paper is from the paper of Iqbal and Associates in 2022, the impacts of emotional intelligence on student study habits in blended learning, the mediating role of cognitive engagement during COVID-19, published in Behavioral Sciences. Now, with that example, this is how the results and discussion IPRC structure is presented. So the study explored the connection of emotional intelligence. It stands for the introductory statement. Similar studies have been conducted, referring now to the presentation of the gap being addressed, showing that studies have been conducted in emerging countries level results only in pre-COVID-19 situation. As such, it addresses the gap that the present study is the first to examine the influence of emotional intelligence in the study habits of students studying in blended learning environment. Of course, the results of the present study, the results indicate that self-awareness and self-management positively and significantly influence study habits, which approves the hypothesis presented. And of course, comparison of the findings with previous literature, that stands for the IPRC structure. And lastly, is the practical implications. The practical implications is that giving meaning to what does it mean at the level of the university is a plausible reason for these results could be the universities did not fully prepare their students to develop emotional intelligence in the area of regulation of emotion and social skills. And there could be other reasons for these results, such as the weak social skills and poor regulation of emotion owing to fewer face-to-face interaction in blended learning environments during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is all about the IPRC structure. Now, how do we call literature from sources? Because it is in the discussion section that you need also to provide in-text references in the paper. So I suggest you to connect with Connected Papers, an artificial intelligence software wherein you can just easily locate for a specific sources that would justify, that would concur or refute the result of the study. So suppose we are looking on the emotional intelligence and study habits as research, then there are around studies presented here, like involvement of executive functions, emotional intelligence, and study habits, published in 2023 in a revista de Psychodidactica, emotional intelligence, study habits in high school. Okay, impact of emotional intelligence on study habits is the paper I presented a while back, and a study of emotional intelligence of study habits of BEd trainees. So suppose you go back to this paper by Iqbal, you open this one, and a graph is being drawn for you, presented for you, so that you can trace the citation history of the paper. What is good with connected papers is that there are two options here. We have the prior and derivative. The prior means these are the papers cited by the authors in the paper, and the derivative are the papers that cited the paper. So in a given example, Iqbal published or wrote this study in 2022 on the impacts of emotional intelligence on students' study habits in blended learning environments, the mediating role of cognitive engagement during COVID-19. It can be noticed that Iqbal cited studies and Iqbal was being cited. So to look at what Iqbal cited is click prior. So these are the studies that Iqbal cited in the paper. Okay. And the derivative, these are the studies that cited Iqbal in the study. Now, you can just easily trace a very good reference to back up or to refute or concur the statement in the discussion section. So suppose you are having this investigation, the nexus between information technology capabilities and knowledge management and green product innovation. You just look at the papers related to this. Okay. So if this is the paper written by Iqbal, you can click it, and this is actually the paper. Okay. So what is good with this is you can just easily scroll and look. When you click the dots here in the figure, it will give you the study. So suppose we'll click Chen in 2022. Chen was being cited because the study of Chen is the impact of self-concept, self-imagination, self-efficacy on English language learning outcomes among blended learning students during COVID-19. And this is what how artificial intelligence can do in research. It gives better access, but it also warns you on the use of other artificial intelligence that could not provide exact information. So when you click Iqbal here, when you click Iqbal, then definitely it will guide you through the paper. So another one is tracing the history of the research paper. So I hope you can get actually ideas here so that you can package your results and discussion section better. Okay, moving on. I presented a while back the use of library Genesis. Please go to LiveGen and you can get literature here. Eventbrite is another important database wherein you can get good references. Suppose you would like to look for studies inside. Suppose you go to site and let's say we go to site. Site AI for research as presented here. So I went to site. Here is the site and let's click, let's put the title and let's see. So this is the paper I am referring to you, the cognitive engagement during COVID-19. What is good with site is you can actually sort it according to year. So because inside informations about this one started, they have information from 1972. So, but the requirements only is 10 years back. So figure it out. Then go to section, what part of paper you would like to have. So suppose we are now in the discussion section, and it's up to you to decide what specific uh, standpoint your paper in the discussion section would like to emphasize. Are you supporting a theory or an idea? Are you contrasting it? Or are you just mentioning it? So you just choose any of this. But let's go to contrast. So let's see what are the papers that have contrasting attributes with existing papers. So the impact of emotional intelligence. I click it there. Okay, so here, so the type will be to contrast, and let's see what happens with our artificial intelligence. For suppose we get subjective well-being and emotional regulation strategies, how are they associated with students' engagement in online learning during COVID-19? A synonymous paper. And here is the statement about this one. Student engagement is generally accepted. And in literature, it has a 99% confidence mentioning it. So it says here that student engagement is generally accepted according to Frederick, that have three aspects. What are the three aspects of student engagement? Number one, behavioral engagement. Second, emotional engagement. And the third one is cognitive engagement in learning. So these are the three important concepts. That's according to SOC. And according to SOC, that well-being is positively associated with student learning in online learning. That positive association between two remains valid even with the change to mode of online learning. So it's just stating that regardless whether it's online or not online, these are just accepted concepts that emotional intelligence, behavioral engagement, and cognitive engagement are accepted as a way that reinforce the well-being of students in online, whether online or not online. Okay? So what is good with site is it can also help you generate better literature for your research paper. In fact, you can have also paper, click on the paper that supports, mentions, contrasts. Okay, so suppose we go to mentioning. Okay, so there are papers that mention about the topic. Okay, so what is good with site is it gives better value of your literature to have a better appreciation in improving how you will write your introduction or your results and discussion section. Okay, So moving on, semantic scholar is another one, but I will not open this time. I hope you will explore it, publish or perish. So why do we need to have literature review also in the results and discussion section? It's good because your literature review will tell you about how the research provides a strong grounding of the knowledge on the research topic. It generates the research gap in the study, and in the discussion section, it gives the direction where the researcher will stand as a point wherein he or she filled a gap in that literature and update what the researcher what is new in the method to use. So there are other types of journal articles that can be used. Could be a review article that synthesizes 200 to 250 research papers according to year, according to chronological order, or according to geographic origin. Methodological articles, I have mentioned this one, that research designs should have been reviewed. And the research articles are actually the results, the published articles about the results of a study conducted. Okay? So number 2 example for the results and discussion section is the relationship between teachers' pedagogical orientation, integrating technology in the online classroom, its effect on students' motivation engagement. So the results started with table 4, referring to table 4. It's just plainly stating what's the trend in the table. Table 4 shows there is a significant relationship between teachers' pedagogical orientation, integrating technology on online classroom to students' motivation engagement. Hence, studies null hypothesis stating no significant relationship between pedagogical orientation and student motivation is rejected. It can be seen in the table that student-centered belief, teacher preparation for computer utilization, integration of computer in the classroom, and attitude towards computer utilization are positively related to students' level of engagement. This suggests the teacher's belief in utilizing student-centered teaching to integrating technology in the classroom, the higher students are motivated and engaged in learning. In like manner, it was also revealed that teacher-centered belief is negatively correlated to students' motivation and engagement in online language learning, which signifies teacher-directed learning, such as the use of one-way directed learning. So what's in the sample discussion? The study explored the relationship between teachers' pedagogical orientation, integrating technology. The result of the study found out teachers' pedagogical orientation, integrating technology classroom is significantly correlated to students, and so on. And let's try to have the walkthrough of this number 2 sample. So introductory statement, the study explored relationship. Okay, you must have introductory statement. The second one is you must have the result of the present study. The result of the present study found out teachers' pedagogical orientation. This means the higher teacher adhered to teacher-centered beliefs. Then, interpretation of the present results of the study. Then, comparison with the previous literature. The result of the study confirmed previous investigations by author year and author year. And lastly, limitations and recommendations for future studies is here. So this correlation regarding the beliefs to technology among language teachers on online learning has been investigated on their self-perception and ideas limiting the present study. So this is the use of IRICL structure. So number 3 example is this test of difference and students' level of online language learning engagement and motivation when grouped according to sex. So table 4, this is the result, presents a test of differences in students' level of online language learning. It shows no significant difference. It shows the gender of students is not a factor of difference, and null hypothesis of the study is accepted. So what's in the sample discussion? Okay. The IRCIP structure tells you, number 1, introductory statement. The portion of the study presents the test of difference in students' level of online language learning engagement and motivation when grouped according to sex. Then, results of the present study, it shows gender of the students is not a factor of difference in online language learning engagement and motivation. It can be inferred that in the context of the study, both groups of students manifested a favorable attitude towards online language learning. Then comparison with the previous literature, as you can see, the author confirms The study confirms Abu Raja in 1997, author year, and previous studies noted gender was a significant factor in second language learning motivation. That's the comparison with the literature. So previous study noted gender was a significant factor. And lastly, the interpretation of the results presented. The studies presented also showed that gender is not a factor of language learning since both male and female students are capable of appreciating the role of online learning in language learning. And of course, the practical implication of the results manifested the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation to learn language through the online mode is clearly related to appreciation of the male and female students to learn the language as part of their career and preparation. So that is the IRCIP structure. This is a sample article showing a table, relationship between water governance and availability of water. If we try to explore the article here from the journal, okay, we have now the article being downloaded just for a while. And if you notice, I give you articles as a good reference because these were already peer-reviewed, meaning they underwent the quality assurance that these papers were actually reviewed by experts and have underwent language and technical edition of the paper. So when you go to results and discussion, as what I have presented a while back, suppose this is the example relationship between water governance and availability of water. That is table 7. So this is the result. There was a strong positive linear association, as shown in table 7, highlighted the importance. And it followed the interpretation, the meanings, and of course, the implications of the result of the study. Okay, so in a better way to write the results and discussion section of your research paper, you must be guided with the points I presented a while back. Okay, so I will give key important things for you to consider when you are writing your results and discussion section by giving the key findings. So begin in part by reiterating your research problem, concisely summarizing your major findings. Don't just repeat all the data you have already reported. Aim for a clear statement of an overall result that directly answers your main research. Example, the results indicate that the study demonstrates a correlation between, and this analysis supports the theory that the data suggests that. Okay? In presenting interpretation, identify correlations, patterns, and relationship. Discuss whether the results met your expectations or supported your hypothesis. Contextualize your findings with previous research and theory. Explain unexpected results. So examples in line with hypothesis, contrary to the hypothesis, the results might suggest. Of course, you must also provide implication in the results and discussion section. Do your results agree with previous research? If so, what do they add to it? Are your findings very different from other studies? If so, what might this be? Do the results support a challenging existing theories? Are there any practical implications? Examples, these results build existing evidence of, the results do not fit the theory, the results should be taken into account, the data contributes to a clearer understanding of, while previous research has focused on X and Y. Okay? And of course, acknowledge limitations. That limitations might be due to the overall research design, specific methodologies and choices, or unanticipated obstacles that emerge during the research process. For example, the generalizability of the results is limited. The reliability of the data is impacted by, due to the lack of data on X, the results cannot confirm. The methodological choices were constrained by, it is beyond the scope of the study too. And of course, present recommendations. Based on the discussion of your results, you make recommendations for practical implementation of the further research, and suggestions for further research can lead directly from the limitations. Example, further research is needed to establish what further studies should take into account. So things to avoid in writing the discussion, don't introduce new results. Don't make inflated claims. And don't undermine your research. I would like to leave an article published in Scopus written by me on the use of technology-based tools in ensuring quality of a publishable journal articles. You can download this one should you wish to have a wider understanding on how to write a scientific paper or a scientific journal article. So the last portion will be to guide you on the use of academic phrase bank using the reporting results and discussing findings. Okay? So in academic phrase bank, I am leading you to reporting a result. Okay? So the standard approach to this section of a research article or dissertation is to present and describe the results in a systematic and detailed way. When reporting a qualitative results, the researcher will highlight the comment on the themes that emerge from the analysis. And in quantitative studies, the result section is consisting of tables, figures, and writers' comments on significant data shown on this. So there are phrases that you can use. How do you refer back to the research aims or procedure? So you may use the phrases, the first set of question aim to compare the difference between simple statistical analysis was used. The next question asked the informants, and so on. Referring to data in a table, for example, table 1 shows an overview of. Table 1 presents the experimental data on X. Figure 1 provides the breakdown of X. Figure 1 compares the intercorrelations among. Another one, the table below illustrates the pie charts above shows the top half of the table shows the bottom half of the table shows the proportion of different categories. As shown in figure 1, it can be seen from the table above that X reported significantly more than Y than. From the graph above, we can see that it can be seen from the data in table that. The results of the correlation analysis are shown. The themes identified in these responses are set out. The results obtained from the primary analysis of X are presented in table 1 or in figure 1. Of course, highlighting significant data in a table or chart. So what stands out in this table, chart, or figure is the growth of, is the high rate of, is the dominance of, is the wide range of, is the difference between. Another is stating positive results. The mean score for X was, further analysis was showed that a two-way ANOVA revealed that this result is significant at P at 0.05 level. The difference between X and Y groups was significant. How do you state a negative result? No increase in X was detected. No difference greater than X was observed. No significant difference. None of these differences were statistically significant. No significant reduction. No evidence was found. X appeared to be unaffected by. So for example, no statistically significant difference between means was found. No statistically significant correlation was observed between X and Y. Other way around, reporting positive negative reactions. Please read. Highlighting interesting or surprising results. Sample, there is a surprising result, surprising outcome, significant outcome, remarkable outcome, unexpected outcome, or disappointing outcome. What about surveys and interviews? Reporting response rates. The overall response to the survey was poor. There were 50 responses. The response rate was 60% at 6 months, 56% at 12 months. What about surveys and interviews reporting proportion? 70% of those who were interviewed indicated that. Almost 2/3 of the participants said. What about reporting the themes for qualitative study? Concerns were expressed about. 5 broad themes emerged from the analysis. 2 divergent, often conflicting discourses emerge. On the surveys and interviews reporting participants' view, 1 informant felt that, some informants said that, a few interviewees stated that. An overwhelming majority of the participants were particularly critical of. Okay? Surveys and interviews introducing excerpts. As one interview put it, one informant reported that, one participant commented. The comment below is straight talking about the issues interview said. And transition moving to the next results. If we now turn to further analysis, the next section of the survey, the final part of survey. And lastly, to summarize the results section is the results suggest that. The results also indicate that. In summary, for the informants in this study, the results in this chapter indicate the next chapter. Therefore, we move on to discuss the next part. So this is the use of academic phrase bank by Manchester. Okay, so I think, and I'm already done with the process on how to package your results and discussion section. Questions can be sent through the facilitator, and I will answer it in a live encounter with you through through Zoom video conferencing. Thank you very much, and I hope you can already write your research results and discussion section. Happy writing.